We're going to check out Dane Brugler's latest 2-round NFL mock draft. He's one of my favorite NFL draft analysts out there. But let me know, what draft pick were you spot on for? Get in the comment section while the intro rolls. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Falcons Today. Apologies for the video coming out a little bit later. I had some other work to do at Chat Sports, so I'm filming this in the middle of the first quarter of the National Championship game because I still wanted to get a video out to you guys today. So let's talk about Brugler's 2-round mock draft because, like I said 5 to 10 seconds ago, he's one of my favorite NFL draft analysts. I think he's very accurate. I think he's very insightful. And he does a good combination of breadth and depth where he can tell you a short blurb on a player, but he also puts out the beast, the most in-depth draft piece of work out there every single year. I also like to go and look back at analysts' mock drafts from last year to see how accurate they were. So let's look at Dane Brugler's 2024 January mock draft 1 year ago. He went 8 for 32. That's very impressive for January with the draft in April. He got 2 picks in the top 10 correct, 6 outside the top 10. He got 15 teams with the correct position, and then of the 32 players he had going round 1, 25 ended up going round 1. For comparison, Mel Kiper, he also went 8 for 32. Dylan, we can put Mel Kiper's on screen right now, and he had 7 of the top 10 picks correct, only 1 outside of the top 10, whereas Brugler went 6 outside the top 10, and Atlanta is picking 15. He had 16 positions correct, and he had 23 players accurately go round 1. So this is what we are working with here. Now let's look at his mock draft, where he has the Titans picking Cam Ward first overall, the Browns go Abdul Carter, the Giants take Travis Hunter, Patriots go receiver with McMillan. This is all feasible to me. Will Johnson's a Jaguar. The Raiders end up with Shedeur after all. And then the Jets select Mason Graham out of Michigan. Georgia's Jalen Walker stays in the Southeast. He just goes over to Charlotte, plays for the Panthers. Malachi Starks is off to New Orleans out of UGA as well. The Bears select Josh Simmons to protect Caleb Williams' blind side. The Niners at 11 go with a player that, to be honest with you, I don't really know. So here's your interior offensive line pick of the draft. Luther Burden, how about back-to-back Tigers? He goes to the Cowboys to pair up with CeeDee Lamb. Will Campbell, the LSU left tackle who's been there since his freshman year, is a Dolphin. Tyler Warren goes to the Colts at 14. And the Falcons at 15 take Shemar Stewart. And then the Cardinals, just for sake here, they go with a different defensive lineman, Derek Harmon. But let's talk about the 15th overall pick in Brugler's mock draft, to be more specific. Who is Stewart? Let's give you guys some background on the potential Falcon because we saw Brugler go 6 correct outside of the top 10 last year, so why can't he be correct on this one? He's 6'6", 285 pounds. I'm going to stop you right there and go, that is the number one reason why he is being talked about as a first-round draft pick. Teams are looking at the traits. They see a monstrous human being who has no business being that quick, that fast, for being nearly 300 pounds. 3-year starter, he was a huge recruit for the Aggies under Jimbo Fisher, 5-star recruit, and he has been pretty much a starter since his freshman year. You can look at his career stats so far with the Aggies, and this is where the conversation takes a turn. He's huge. He's fast. But he only has 1.5 sacks each year. Yeah, that's the problem we're running into. And that brings me to my number one rule. Whenever we talk about pass rushers, you have to have production. I almost broke my rule 2 weeks ago when I talked about taking Mykal Walker from Georgia. I'm going back to it. I am not going to fool myself with taking guys who have elite traits and you just kind of close your eyes and you picture this guy's someone who's made in a lab. He's 6'6", 285 pounds, and he moves like a train. He's going to be incredible. No one's going to stop him. Here's my rebuttal to that. If he's not getting production in college, why is he magically going to learn in the NFL? Maybe it is all coaching. That's a fair counter. But there's good coaching in college too. This guy didn't go to some Maction school. No offense to Maction coaches. Went to Texas A&M. And I shared this last year, and I added one more year to my data sample size here. What you're looking at is the first-round draft picks from 2017 to 2021. I think that is far enough back where we can have an accurate analysis as to whether or not the player is good or bad, good pick or bust, right? 21 edge rushers were selected in this sample size. 13 would go on to have their fifth-year option picked up or be selected to a Pro Bowl. Of those 13, none of them had less than 5.5 sacks in a single season in college. None of them had less than 11.5 career sacks in college. Stewart would be trying to break that run. That's where I scratch my head and go, I'm not convinced that he is going to be worthy of a first-round draft pick, right? Stewart, to me, is someone that I think, while he does have a lot of physical traits that can make you foam at the mouth and salivate, I'm looking at history here, and history is telling me if you can't find production in college, you're not going to magically wake up one day in the NFL and go, I figured out how to finally sack the quarterback. As of late, there have been some outliers. Like Trayvon Walker's a good example of someone who has taken 4 traits, didn't really have a ton of production. He had like 6 sacks his last year at Georgia. That's more than the 5.5. Outside of that, there are very few examples of, hey, here's an example of great traits but little production, and that production is going to show up in the NFL. That can be true for wide receivers, for tight ends, right? If they're in an offense that doesn't use them, or a quarterback in that offense who's not very good, they could fly under the radar. I can buy that for sure. Edge rusher, it's mano-a-mano in college football. It is you and the offensive lineman in front of you 8 times out of 10. And if you can't beat that left tackle from the school of deaf and blind or Ole Miss or Vanderbilt, I don't think you're going to learn how to beat tackles in the NFL. So, every once in a while, I need to slap myself. Remember, when we're talking about edge rushers, production matters. Doesn't have to be the case for other positions. Quarterbacks, they have bad wide receivers, right? Josh Allen didn't have great production at Wyoming. Look what happened to the NFL. Edge rusher is different. Before we get on to the rest of today's mock draft, quick shout out to our sponsor, Factor. Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes so you can fuel up and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared for any active busy lifestyle. You can lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor's keto meals. Based on a randomized controlled clinical trial with Factor Keto, results will vary depending on diet and exercise. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off and use code FalconsChat50off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FalconsChat50off at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. All that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Let's move along with our mock draft. Speaking of Michael Williams, he goes just a few picks later to the Bengals. Kelvin Banks is a Seahawk. The Buccaneers select someone who I like a lot. That's James Pierce, so keep an eye on Williams and Pierce for Atlanta. Denver lands Ashton Jeanty. He goes from one Bronco team to the next. Emeka Ibuka, who's playing right now as I'm filming this, he's a Steeler. They need a wide receiver for sure. Chargers and Harbaugh, well, they have a reunion between him and his old tight end, Colston Loveland. Then, speaking of Buckeyes, how about the interior defensive lineman for Ohio State? Williams going to the Packers. Caleb Johnson. This is a name, if you want to sound smart in front of your friends, talk about him. All eyes are on Jeanty. Johnson's going to be a stud at the next level. Tyler Booker, offensive lineman from Bama, desperately goes to Houston, who needs a lot of help interior, and that was shown against the Chiefs. We've got the Rams going with the tackle. I really like Mike Green a lot. Speaking of wanting to sound smart in front of your friends. He went to Marshall, so didn't get a lot of film, didn't get a lot of publicity. He's super good, though. Donovan Jackson going to the Ravens at 28. We've got the Bills taking a corner. Eagles adding to their pass rush. Look at the run of Buckeyes here. Kenneth Grant going to Michigan. Another Aggie to close out round 1. Now we move on to round number 2. The Falcons are going to be picking in a little bit, but we'll show you the first couple of picks in round number 2 as we inch closer and closer to the Dirty Birds, who have the 46 overall pick, and they are going to go with a corner out of Texas. It is Jahdae Barron, the Jim Thorpe Award winner this past college football season. He is an absolute ball hawk. 5'11", 200 pounds, so good physical makeup, solid size for a corner. The number one thing about Barron is he is versatile. He had 5 seasons in Austin. He played all over the secondary. They had him at outside corner. They had him at nickel. They had him at safety. They had him in the star position. He was Captain America. He did everything for Texas's back end. He doesn't have incredible speed, but he makes up for that with some SOB mentality when it comes to stopping the run. And NFL coaches drool over DBs who can stop the run, especially nickels, because we see a lot of opposing offenses throw out 3 wide receiver sets. And sometimes your nickel is matched up with a tight end, or they're responsible for covering the flat. You need a nickel who can tackle someone that is 25, 30 pounds bigger than them. Barron can do that. 5 interceptions, 16 pass breakups his last year at Texas. And the Atlanta cornerback room needs an addition to it. I think they'll bring back Hughes, and I think they'll bring back Alford, but I'm not confident that both are going to come back. I would be surprised if Atlanta starts the same 3 corners with 2 of them headed to free agency. But as a whole, the cornerback room needs to be added to. They can re-sign Hughes and Alford, and I'm still content with drafting a corner because it's a cornerstone position. They didn't add to it last year. They added to it the year before with Clark Phillips in round 4. They've just gone too long without watering the cornerback plant. Tackle, corner, receiver, quarterback. These are cornerstone positions. Edge rusher. You should be re-hitting those position groups every other draft at minimum. So even if Barron doesn't have an immediate starting role for him, that's fine with me. I want to see them get young and kind of reset at that position anyway. To round out the remaining round 2 of Brugler's mock draft, I thought you guys might just be interested to see who goes where. Mason Taylor, a good tight end from LSU, ends up in Denver. We've got a couple other edge rushers going in round 2. A nice run of them right here, but Atlanta scratches that itch in round number 1. How about Trey Harris, the wide receiver out of Ole Miss? He's going to fall because he missed a little bit of time this year. I think he's really good. And I think it's a good pick for the Texans at 58. Jahad Campbell, the Bama linebacker. We'll see what he projects to be in the NFL. He might be the next Patrick Queen in Baltimore. Moving on, Xavier Watts, another player I'm watching right now on TV. He goes to the Bills. That's a good pick for them. And then Benjamin Morris, another Notre Dame player I'm watching. He goes to the Lions to close out round number 2. I should have also mentioned Dane Brugler put this mock draft out before the divisional round, so some of the pick order spots are incorrect because he didn't know who won or lost in the divisional round. So going back to the 2 selections that Brugler made for the Falcons, it's Stewart and Barron, defensive lineman from A&M, and a corner from Texas. I like both these additions to a degree. I like the Barron one way more than Stewart. I can understand how a team can fall in love with Stewart's traits, but what's my word? It's like real estate. Location, location, location. Edge rushers. Production, production, production. So grade his mock draft. A, B, C, D, or F. I would give Dane a B-. Passing on Mykel Williams and James Pierce for a guy with 1.5 sacks. They don't play identical positions, but I need someone who can sack the quarterback 10 or more times. And I don't think Stewart has that in him. And I think you have a better chance of getting that out of Pierce or Williams. That will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Apologies for it being a little bit later than usual. My fault. It was just kind of a busy day here at work and ultimately got pushed off a little bit. But I'll be back tomorrow with more Falcons news and rumors.